And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the next session. We have Mr. Krishnakumar Narayanan, KK as he's fondly known, SVP and IT CTO, Dell delivering a short keynote, and he will be speaking on digital business KPIs, identifying and then measuring value in the capability. In his short keynote, KK will answer key questions that companies face while planning, managing, and tracking digital investments and returns. With a brief background in mind, I'd like to invite on stage KK, as he is fondly known. As SVP and IT CTO Dr. Narayanan, KK Krishnakumar is responsible for setting the overall strategy and architecture in Dell's digital and IT organization. He also leads the MIDAS department, which includes marketing IT, Dell EMC integration, Dell IT proven, data science, enterprise architecture, and M&A enablement. Krishnan Kumaran is a veteran technology leader with more than 25 years of experience in executive management and hands-on technical leadership, with expertise in all aspects of technology, including cloud, big data, social, and mobility. Without further ado, may I please request KK to address this August gathering.
Hey, thank you. What a great panel to follow. So the bar is already set, so we'll see how I do. My role is that of CTO in Dell. How many of you can name the company that went public this week, which is part of Dell? Anybody? Pivotal, of course. And so I'll talk a little bit about Pivotal. We had a very nice talk by Leo Spiegel yesterday, and I'll allude to that in my discussion as well. So let's get started. So digital business KPIs, important kind of topic. Let's see if this works. Should I be pointing somewhere? Okay. So let's hope this continues to work, otherwise I might have to fiddle with it. So as we all know, digital transformation sits right at the intersection of business and technology. This topic is about business KPIs, and we are normally used to looking at it as a technology problem. So let's see how it actually blends into business and technology. So we do live in the digital era, as we all know. IT, software, apps is being infused into every aspect of business. Software is actually removing the complexity. Apps are driving all the business disruption. And so there's a general representation you will see on the right side where it talks about a mobile interface representing the front office and what are called systems of engagement. Then we have apps, which are the business logic, and then you have the cloud being the back office itself, right? Now, if you look at how digital business is changing, IT is actually reshaping. IT and digital is reshaping many industries. Of course, healthcare, education, power, manufacturing, you name it, banking, of course, and devices. Now, what you find is that each of these businesses is being disrupted by many aspects of things like health and education with MOOCs, smart grids, custom manufacturing, 3D printing, mobile finance, and IoT, right? Now, IoT, of course, is something that's all pervasive these days and starting to disrupt a lot of businesses as well. And I will actually show you an example later, which talks about IoT and things you wouldn't even have thought can be used with IoT, right? But one of the things that's important for us is, even as we try to lay out business KPIs, is what is digital business? And this kind of a framework, 3 boxes, came from McKinsey. I know many people from McKinsey may be in the audience. I love the word adapted because it allows me to take this work and represent what I want with it. But it's not changed fundamentally. The first part is new value in core businesses. And what that is taking existing digital or non-digital business processes, making them more digital, increasing efficiencies, revenues based on that. The important thing that's been talked about over the last day and even this morning in the panel was about improving the customer experience. And that's a very important thing that's turning up. So what you would find is, even if there's an existing business, to improve the customer experience significantly continues to be a very, very important thing. And using digital means, of course, right? So one of the things that you would talk about with the blue box is to say, hey, what is the macro KPI here? So the first thing would be NPS, Net Promoter Score, right? To say, let's measure that and see how digital is changing the notion of that particular KPI. The other aspect of it is around the digitizing the business processes. Existing business processes can actually increase efficiencies. So there's a pot of gold there, so we should look at financial metrics as well as part of just that blue box. And so those are the two things, right? NPS is one. Look at some of the financial metrics at the macro level, right? The other piece, which is the green box, is what you would see as new value in market frontiers, meaning how are you pushing the envelope. Now, what you would find there is clearly building new platforms. I think Abhinav said he hits the word platform. But it's important that the whole notion of platform these days is around establishing an ecosystem. And as people plug into the ecosystem, the value of the ecosystem grows. And that's starting to emerge with things like Airbnb, Uber, Ola, whatever you have. The point is that using a very digital model, they've been changing what the market is. Now, Amazon changed the market in a different way, right? They started with books and decided that, hey, we can actually take the same platform and make it do regular retail, or you can actually take the same platform and make it do AWS. And that's a different way of changing the whole problem, but it's also pushing at the market frontier. And so in this particular case, the macro KPI is going to be typically the actual amount of revenues that you're increasing based on that, right? So we have new value in core businesses, we have customer experience in NPS. Here we see that there is probably more revenue as a macro KPI that we should use. Now, both of these are actually built on a digital foundation. You could have digital foundations of many kinds. Typically, Leo yesterday talked about agility and speed in terms of releasing software very fast, making decisions faster, and a general digital workforce transformation in terms of collaboration and so on and so forth. So if you look at it, the digital foundation is really characterized by more speed. And that's the macro KPI with this. So those are the 3 or 4 general KPIs that you can talk about when you're talking about any digital transformation. So that's first one is NPS. Second would be financial numbers, of course, as influenced by digital. And the third one is around the speed. And those are typically the general bounds, because any particular industry that you take, we're going to have to deal with these. And these are very measurable in terms of what you would say is being influenced by the digital business. Okay? So what is your digital agenda? Now, obviously, we have many icons here. Please pardon me if your company's icon is not here. But the idea is that between these 3 areas, new value in core business, market frontiers, and digital foundation, you may pick one or more of these. It's definitely not mutually exclusive. And then the appropriate KPIs around them. Now, the very interesting thing is that I never thought I would say this in India, that there are no sacred cows, right? And let's see what that means.
A dairy cow that talks to farmers. What kind of is that? It's not the magic wand kind. It's the RFID collar and Internet of Things kind we created with Chitley Dairy. So every cow can let farmers know how she feels and what she needs to be healthier. All with a simple text. Ta-da!
So the most important thing about this is that, here's another KPI, right? If you have cows around the house or pets, then actually make them digital, right? Put RFID tags on them, and that could be one KPI that we could start to measure. But jokes apart, the whole point is that this particular dairy that they're talking about in the clip, Chitley Dairy is not far from here, far from Bombay. It's close to Pune. And they've actually implemented a fantastic digital transformation. They've been a very important aspect of creating a platform, even before digital happened, in terms of a community and ecosystem of farmers and dairy farmers specifically. But then adding the digital aspect into it has increased the amount of the cows being more healthy, actually having a much better ecosystem of farmers and adding to the community and the ecosystem that's been created there. And this is a very good example of where all three areas, the digital foundation with mobile, or the new frontiers, and the existing core business, all of them have been improved. Okay. Now, one of the things is that there are these different aspects of the three models that I talked about. But even as you go into our own businesses, what you would see is that there are further KPIs that we would start to measure. So let's take a look at that. The first one is, we talked about core business and what is the new value from any of these digitized processes. Here is an example of what we have in Dell. Dell Print is actually the blueprint for our end-to-end processes, and there are 9 of them. You can actually just walk through them, like strategy to launch is really, and we are a product company. We do storage, servers, networking devices, and so on. So strategy to launch is typically around defining the R&D of the product. The market to quote is around marketing, selling the products and the solutions. Order to delivery to cash is the next stage, and saying that how do you actually start to create the order, what are the shipping and logistics areas, what is the fulfillment angle to it, and so on. And you can walk down all of this, and service delivery management is servicing our products and so on. Okay. Last but not the least is the talent life cycle and all the culture, the people. So if you look at this and you say that, okay, this is what is called L0 and L1 processes, how do you start to measure the next level of KPI with respect to the business? And so an example could be for market to quote, it could be a percentage, it could be a dollar number or a rupee number, whatever you want to have it. The first one is revenue through digital channels. That is the change that has been introduced from introduction of a digital kind of approach. So there are digital channels, meaning, for instance, we have Dell.com. You can go buy products on Dell.com, or you can go into your Dell store and buy stuff. So what is the difference, and how is the revenue being impacted based on the new digital approach? And so that's one of the digital KPIs. What is the digital marketing spend? What is the lift based on that? That's another KPI. A third one could be the reduction in time from interest in a product to the actual code being generated, and then further down the pipeline. So this is about the speed aspect of it. So as I said, it's not mutually exclusive that some of the KPIs are actually associated with some of the macro boxes. The point is that each one of these aspects could actually introduce, whether it's financial numbers or some of the time areas. If you go to order to delivery to cash, obviously we want to have frictionless orders, the end-to-end. The end-to-end is very important, right? Even as you look at processes and try to digitize them, I've seen instances where we digitize one part of the process, we also digitize another part of the process, but then it was interesting that at the end of it, somebody was taking stuff off a screen and typing it into another screen, and then off it goes, right? So that's beautiful, but it does not do the end-to-end as far as the process itself is concerned. So it's important to have frictionless orders and end-to-end. Another one is around order processing backlog. How does the digital aspect of it reduce the backlog? And so on. So there are similar things like this. The talent life cycle. So I talked about the NPS with respect to the customer. Obviously, when we have an organization, we have a large organization ourselves. Dell has about 145,000 employees. We want to also measure the eNPS, which is the employee NPS, because obviously they come into work every day. I go into work every day, and what is my level of confidence that the company has the right processes, right tools, right collaboration mechanisms for that? And so eNPS is a very important thing, even as we within the company try to actually make it more digital. So that's one of the examples. Another measure KPI could be self-service. To what degree does somebody sitting at a desk in Dell, do they have to talk to somebody versus saying, let's go on to our intranet and actually click, and off they go with respect to whatever service they want. So the more that it is self-service and electronic and digital, the less it is that it's going to be painful, right? So that's on the processes front. How about the market itself? This market frontier, and so if you double click on that, here I'm talking about what Dell, I'm just giving you examples here because everything that I'm talking about applies differently to different businesses, of course. So Dell has had significant change in business ourselves, right? We went from single route to market. It was initially what Michael Dell started in his dorm room, and he dropped out also, so just so you know. But then you go down delivering hardware products. Dell is, how many of you know VMware is part of Dell, right? So it's not only that we deliver boxes which have storage or servers in them, we actually have software fulfillment too. And so cloud solutions, VirtuStream is another cloud solution provider that's part of the Dell ecosystem. So there are different solutions. If you look at all of these areas, there has been a huge amount of evolution of Dell itself. And some of this is digital. Not all of it is digital, some of it is. And so one of the things that you look at is say, if you take the whole ecosystem, what is the revenue? It could be, again, the percentage or the actual dollar number about what is the revenue from digitizing products and services. There are other aspects of Dell, for instance, in storage, something called a flexible consumption model. And what that means is, hey, we can deliver a whole box to you which has, let's say, supposedly 8 terabytes of storage in it, but you don't get charged for the 8 terabytes of storage. You only get charged for the amount you're consuming. And so that's a very, very important concept because it means that it then starts to make it very transparent to a customer that, hey, they are only paying for what they are using. And that's a very important step in the digital evolution of Dell itself. Right? A third one is as a service model. So as an example, VirtuStream I mentioned is a cloud provider. It's one of the providers for mission critical cloud applications, like an SAP if you want to put it on there. And the idea is that that's another digital channel as to how you can actually implement and pay for only things that are being consumed, right? It's not, you're not paying for licenses, you're paying for actually the usage of the services, okay? So that's the example on the double click, whatever KPIs we get on this front. The digital foundation, again, now if you double click on that, if you look at what is digital foundation and what the transformation is, we have layers to it. So there are 4 pillars. First one is, as part of the framework, the IT transformation framework. So that is typically where we say, hey, make your infrastructure more modern, make it more all flash, that kind of stuff. Make it more into a cloud. You can have a private cloud, you can have a public cloud, you can have the hybrid cloud. And that's been part of what our message has been from Dell and EMC. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, of course, the digital aspect of it, which we've been talking about. It's more the applications, the data, and how you can actually enable the business, empower all of the digital business through that, okay? A number of things, I won't drain the slide. The third aspect of it, third leg of the stool, is actually workforce transformation. And what this talks about is, again, have the right kinds of devices at your disposal, but at the same time also make the team member experience, meaning the employee experience, incredible. And so this leads to collaboration, communication, all of those kinds of software tools that we have at work when we come in. So that's the third leg. And the fourth leg is surrounding it with security transformation, right? So again, I'm putting these up to give a sense for, here are 4 things, and that we call the Dell digital way. And each of these will have its own sets of KPIs with it. I'm not going to drain that, but due to lack of time. But the idea is that, hey, you can actually go down and you have a bunch of themes for digital business. And so on the left side, you have a number of what you would call IT kinds of things, like reduced application times, reduced software licenses, increased throughput, and so on and so forth. And that leads to a number of business KPIs. So again, better customer experience, NPS is a measure, faster speed to market, and so on, okay? So just wanted to say the digital foundation also contributes to the actual business KPI measures also. So if you put it all together, as an example, what we ourselves have is a cloud native. I mean, the cloud native, of course, is the newer way of doing things, what Leo talked about yesterday with Pivotal. Now, My Service 360 is actually the cloud-based experience. If you own any EMC storage, then you can go up to our My Service 360 site. And you can actually get the status of whatever you have bought from our company. And it's a cloud kind of model, and it's instantaneous almost in terms of how it reacts to the stuff happening with your install base. Now, this we actually implemented with Pivotal Cloud Foundry on our Dell Data Lake. If you look at it, the before of it, before we became fully digital, was before of it, the release cycle used to be 4 months, and with implementing things like pivotal techniques that Leo talked about yesterday, we have gotten down to 2 weeks. So we do releases every 2 weeks. Deployment went from, hey, you got to shut the thing down, to, since it's running on PCF, it's a blue-green deployment, so there's no downtime ever. Testing used to be external, and again, as part of the SDLC process, we always do testing in a certain way. But then we've optimized a number of things, so it's all IT becoming more and more efficient. That's what it is. And what we are doing is we are doing a larger transformation within Dell to actually implement infrastructure, application migration, and the methodology transformation based on what Leo was talking about yesterday. Okay? And we have a cadence of how many developers we have. These are again more KPIs. How many developers? How many of our applications are on PCF? How many pivots we have? Pivots are folks who are very well trained in the pivotal methodology. And so this is the double click on the next generation, right? So overall, we know that the business agenda is technology today. And the idea is that we should continue to embrace the continuous reinvention. And the KPI DNA is very critical. So I've given you some broad brush KPIs. Clearly, it'll apply differently to each of your businesses. But clearly, we have a good amount of KPIs that can be measured. We start with on the macro and then double click further. Okay, that's fine. My time is up. Can I take some questions?
Can you hear me, KK?
Yeah.
Right. So the question is, with this transformation journey that we are on, there is a lot of focus in terms of reducing time to market, right? So it does feel as though we are shooting first and then trying to aim, right? So with the with quality taking a backseat, so to speak. So with this journey that we are on, I just wanted to understand the importance of quality. I understand it's important, but how does quality get the limelight that it really deserves?
Quality is very, very important, right? Because obviously, the more that it is digital, I think some of the comments that have been made earlier in the conference have been that you become more and more transparent as you become more digital. It's very clear that a consumer who's actually looking at a website, for instance, that's one of the interaction mechanisms in a channel. If they're looking at a website where there are lots of defects and you're just not having a good experience, they're going to walk away. So irrespective of what the product is that we are selling, they're going to walk away. So the quality, you might have seen on one of my earlier slides, that measuring quality, how many defects leak into production is a very, very important thing. But it's also not, it shouldn't be a defect-oriented discussion. It should be something where we say, how much earlier in the life cycle can we catch and avoid any of these defects before letting it go into production? So I think the digital way definitely leads to a mechanism by which we can catch these much earlier and so reduce any of defects, and so that's higher quality overall. But it's one of the most important things, and that's one of the KPIs that comes out of the digital foundation, if you will. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Very good. Thank you very much then. It's been a great audience.
Thank you, KK, for the thought-provoking address. As a token of appreciation and on behalf of NASSCOM, I'd like to offer you a speaker memento, please.
Thank you very much.